Hi, I'm Tom Landon. The program you're about to watch was recorded live at the Historic Grandin Theatre in Roanoke. Since we started the ECHO channel, we've made every effort to record as many Hoot and Holler storytelling shows as we can. If you appreciate seeing programs like this one and the fact that we make them available online and on demand to a global audience, I hope you'll consider supporting Blue Ridge PBS by becoming a member. These programs aren't cheap to produce, and we're actively seeking underwriting to support the recording, editing, and distribution of Hoot and Holler so that we can continue to make these heartfelt and personal tales available to those who are unable to attend them live. If you'd like to learn more about sponsorship, please drop me a line by email at tlandon@blueridgepbs.org. And enjoy the show.
Blue Ridge PBS and ECHO present Hoot and Holler, a live storytelling event recorded at the Historic Grandin Theatre in Roanoke, Virginia.
Hi, everybody! Oh, my geez. Welcome to the animal kingdom. And welcome to Hoot and Holler. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, first I just want to see who has never been to a Hoot and Holler, and we won't shame you. Okay, awesome, welcome. I love that. Thank you, welcome, welcome. Okay, so as James said, my name is Lee Hunsaker, and I am the producer and curator of Hoot and Holler. It is my greatest dream, fantasy, magical thing that continues to grow and go deeper and wider into our community. And the whole mission is to give safe platforms for people to share their true stories. And my kind of role in that is to help kind of program the night. And we accept story pitch submissions, and then we work for several weeks together with each storyteller to get their stories shined up, edited, and ready to present tonight. It is a process that is challenging, exhausting, invigorating, inspiring, frustrating, but ultimately so empowering. And I think if we have any storytellers in the audience tonight who have done this, right? It's truly one of the coolest things you can do. So we always invite new voices, of which we have several tonight. So we always love that. Okay, let me read my scribbles before we start. Okay, I said all that. Okay, so along the line of having first-timers, or even if you've done it one time or 1,000,000 times, it's really a brave thing to stand up here. And the coolest part of that is you, the audience. Hoot and Holler audiences are legendary for your generosity and your smiles and your love and your magic that you throw up here at us. So please, all the extra. We love it. The storytellers feed off of it. There's nerves up here, so just know that it's a brave and ballsy thing to do up here. And so we love feeling you, seeing you. Yeah. These are normal people who walk amongst us, right? We're not on Broadway. These are our neighbors and our friends up here because they have something beautiful to say. It's so cool. So all the love, all the time, that's what it's about. And connection. Okay, hold on, let me make sure. Okay, I want to quickly thank, of course, the Grandin Theatre. Yes. Our beautiful home here, it just feels just right, and they make us feel like kings and queens when we're here, so appreciate the hospitality and this beautiful room. I want to thank PBS ECHO is here with us tonight recording. Yes. And Tom Landon is somewhere over there. Yes, he has been a huge champion for Hoot and Holler, a storyteller many times, And they're looking for supporters and underwriters to maybe help produce this show so that we can keep showing it on their channel. So talk with Tom if you have any interest in that. Anything helps, and we all love PBS, and we love that they love us. So yeah, have a word with Tom, maybe an intermission, and see what they need. Yes, we love you. Sam Lunsford, our DJ. And Corey Greer, I think, is back there. He's recording us too, so it's all the love here. Okay, we have 8 stories tonight, and part of my job, the hugest part of my job, is curating those stories. And although we got way more than 8 story submissions, the hard part and the exciting part is finding those ones that are going to make it to the final show. And if some don't get picked, it's not because they're bad. There's no bad story. It's really about kind of riding the wave of emotion and an experience. And so in my mind, the 8 stories tonight do just that. You're going to see a beautiful wide range of experience. You're going to laugh, you might shed a tear, and you're going to be surprised. And that's huge in storytelling. So, yes, okay. There's more later. Oh, the other thing I want to say is Happy Pride. And I want to say that very seriously, that Hoot and Holler will always be a safe place to be for all voices, always. So we celebrate you, we lift you. Everyone deserves a safe place to be in the world. So happy Pride, we welcome you. Okay, all right. We're gonna boogie along. We're gonna go to number 1. So our first storyteller is a first timer right out of the gate, y'all. So all the extra. Let's see, this year marks his 37th year as an outdoor professional. He's faculty instructor of recreation, leadership, and ecotourism at Ferrum College. His passion for wild places has been inspired by his parents, Sharon and Gary, who are here, and all of those he has spent time with in nature. He has finally come to terms with and embraces his MO, a gun-toting liberal and conservationist with enough red in his veins to be country. Hands together, lean in for our poet-philosopher, Aaron Conover.
How y'all doing tonight? Well, it looks like I'm kicking this thing off. And we're going to go for it. Before I want to get started, I want to thank Lee and her amazing talent and how she guides us and these great storytellers, and, of course, the Grandin Theater and their staff. To hunt or not to hunt? Sometimes that is the question. I settle in for a late afternoon and evening hunt in a spot by the end of a field where I know deer have been traveling. My blind is not a traditional one, but 2 round bales of hay that I have rolled into position. I sit, waiting, and watch the sun on its precarious arch across the sky as it tries to hold a high place in winter, traveling to the shortest day of the year. The light wanes. As dusk approaches, I see a deer coming down the ridge. Could this be the big 8-point buck I have been seeing this season? I raise and steady my rifle, align my scope in that direction, and I move my thumb forward to the safety and ready. And wait for it to step out exactly where I think it will. Unfortunately, it is a big body four-pointer, aka Forky. The buck moves along the tree line to my left, stopping occasionally to look at a doe decoy, trying to figure out if he should approach. Trying to, kind of like me as a young man at a party, or maybe at a bar, wondering if I should walk up to an attractive woman, but hesitate, either from shyness or from fear, or not wanting to get into an altercation from a male that has already claimed his territory. Okay. He drops down to the river out of sight, and I wait to see if another buck will follow his path. The Forky returns 40 yards in front of me, crossing the field and taking sideways glances at the decoy. I let him walk away. I head back in almost darkness of the very last light of day, returning to my campsite to enjoy a fire and dinner. A bright yellow 3/4 moon creeps above the neighboring hills, exchanging places with the sun. Prior to that, in the clear night sky, the Milky Way, constellations, and a few planets give me a celestial viewing just for me. The warmth of a fire, a full belly, and the cup of bourbon reminds me of the many great moments like this that I have spent with friends, family, and my wife. I wanted to share this with somebody. I decided to call my longtime friend and fly fishing mentor that I have known for 25 years, Patrick, who lives in Colorado and is more like a brother. I sit and we talk like we have many times around a fire about the night sky and what we have been doing. The fire waning and the empty cup signals it is time to prepare for tomorrow and turn in for an early, cold morning. Where I'm hunting in Southwest Virginia is a family farm of a fishing and now hunting buddy, Brad, who introduced me to this place several seasons ago. I have had the privilege of hunting on this land that has belonged to this family since the late 1800s. I have harvested does, turkeys, squirrels, rabbits, doves, but the big bucks have always eluded me, despite my efforts and encounters. Part of my all VIP access is putting up hay in the fall and the spring. With every square bale I toss on the trailer or stack in the barn, I think to myself, that is one more payment for next season. I crawl back into the vehicle and sleeping bag that night, thinking about the next day. What will tomorrow bring? The questions we all ask ourselves as hunters as we drift off to sleep. The early morning alarm goes off and I peek out of my sleeping bag and there's ice on the windows from frost. It is always colder on the farm than what is forecasted. So I tuck back in the warmth provided by my bag's loft. It can sometimes be easy to rationalize. Why not to get up in the dark on a frigid morning when you're perfectly comfortable in your own little ecosystem? I reset the alarm, and for the second time, it goes off. I lay there telling myself that the typical pattern for deer on these bright moonlit nights is to be active, bed down early, and then start moving again in the later morning. During that time frame of my contemplation, I fall back asleep. I'm going to move this up here, but let me read. I awake at 7:30 a.m. to the sun starting to creep above the horizon once again to try and break through the cold. And a group of 5 blue jays pecking ice off my Xterra. This land has already generously given me 2 does to help sustain my friends and family, which provides me some sort of justification for my lack of motivation. I stuff my clothes into the bottom of the bag and gradually or reluctantly trade them for the protection it has provided. Coffee has now been brewed, and the requisite sitting in the chair, taking in the morning sunshine, is in process, while trying to decide whether to go down to a bottom stand for a mid-morning hunt. I take a short walk over a rise with my coffee, and 5 does cross a field. In the distance is a phone cue around 8:30, like I thought they would. I turn and look back at my rifle laying in the gun case and cover the few short steps that takes me to get there. The wind has now picked up, blowing in their direction. But the chances of being winded and them running add another notch to my collection of excuses. I brew some coffee, then read an article in the Backcountry and English Journal. Finally, a decision has been made. This morning is going to be about enjoying the beauty of this place and reflecting on past adventures. The question of whether to hunt or not to hunt has been answered for today. Thank you.
Our cowboy hunter philosopher. First timer, y'all. How great was that? So awesome. Thank you, Aaron, for kicking us off. Woo, y'all ready? Okay, number 2. She's a native Roanoker. She's a career teacher, a lifelong learner, and an outdoor adventurer. If you have ever met her, then you know she is a joyful peace lover with a heart for people. She's a spiritual seeker and an asker of the really big questions in life. Please welcome one of my favorites, 3-time storyteller, Katie Elmore.
The year was 2016, a particularly rough year, and not just because I'm a Democrat. I'd recently lost my dear mother, and then just a few months later, my beloved dad. My only child, Sarah, decides to move to Austin, Texas, not even in the same time zone. My precious little Bichon fiddles. My loyal companion for 15 years had to be put down. And then, in the cruelest of all, like one final kick in the shins from the universe, an unexpected illness took my little brother Robbie at the age of 47, when he still had so much life left to live. Robbie was amazing. He was this avid outdoorsman who knew the name of every bird, every fish, every mountain peak in Southwest Virginia. He could fix anything. We used to say, if Robbie can't fix it, it ain't broke. He was the one who fearlessly got the possum out of my garage. He was absolutely hilarious, had a wicked sense of humor. After Christmas dinner at my house, I would find things hilariously out of place, like the animals in my Christmas nativity getting to know each other in a biblical way. My candle holders that said Noel would instead be rearranged to read Leon. He's the kind of guy who had a rubber chicken just for fun. He was husband to Mary, dad to Anna and Will, and my brother. Now, I know if you love people, you are going to experience grief. No one gets a pass. And I'm sure most of you have been there. But I was a mess. I would randomly just burst into tears at Kroger, and then I would ask total strangers, "What do you really think happens when you die?" My friends were worried about me. One trusted friend reached out, and she insisted that I make an appointment to visit her psychic. Wait, what? You have a psychic? How did I not know this? She is a very well-respected professional in our community and apparently has her own personal psychic. "Just trust me, Katie," she said. So I did. Visiting the psychic was a bizarre experience, to say the least. I found myself in this Roanoke neighborhood I'd never been to before, entered through the back door of this house, and there she sits, chain smoking, clove cigarettes, and laying out tarot cards on the table in front of her. I sit down. She holds my gaze for an uncomfortable amount of time. "All right, we're just gonna skip all this card stuff because I can tell you don't believe in it." "It's okay. I can read you just fine. You have a sparkly aura." I do? "It's a good thing. It means you're going to have a long and healthy life." And then, this woman told me things about myself I wouldn't have trusted my diary to keep secret. She knew all about my romance with the dark-haired man. She knew about my childhood. She knew about my professional life. She even knew the sordid details of my divorce. It was crazy. She told me things that were going to happen to me in the future. She even told me to be careful while skiing. And I remembered that when I was crying in a snowbank up at Snowshoe with a completely blown out left knee just a few weeks later. But mostly, she told me I was going to be okay. Happy, in fact. And that all my loved ones were still right there with me. She could see them. Wait, so are they here all the time? Because if when I'm in the shower and stuff? Because if Robbie was there, that would be so weird. "Oh, honey, they love you," she said. "They're gonna send you signs." What kind of signs? "You'll know. Just pay attention." I left her feeling totally freaked out and strangely comforted. Sarah was also really worried about me. Every day, every phone call, "Mom, you need to get a cat. A cat would bring you so much happiness." She'd blow up my phone with TikToks of kittens. I reminded her I'm allergic to cats. She reminded me I wasn't allergic to her cat, a Siberian, a breed ever so conveniently hypoallergenic. She was determined to find me one, and she did. Turns out there's a breeder of Siberians in Milton, West Virginia. And as luck would have it, she had 2 kittens left, little orange cheese puffs, that she insisted on selling together, brothers. She sent me a picture. I instantly caved. I mean, look at them. So, on a crisp January day, Sarah and I pile in my Jeep with a kitty carrier and a wad of cash, and we head out to the designated meeting spot, a parking lot at a Wendy's in Milton, West Virginia. That's right, I'm meeting a total stranger out of state in a parking lot, and she knows I'm bringing cash. What could possibly go wrong? Now, Unlike some of you, I suspect this was my first parking lot deal, and it felt pretty sketchy. We arrive, and the deal is going down. There's the cat lady, and oh, there they are. The cutest things I've ever seen. I mean, have you ever held a kitten? I was in love. So we did the exchange, cash for cats, complete with official papers, for these were purebred cats. We said our goodbyes. The cat lady turns to go, and then she comes back. She hesitates a minute, and then she says to me, "Now, sweetie, we don't usually name the cats that we plan to sell. And of course, you're free to name them whatever you want. But this particular cat, this cat right here with the big green eyes, he's just so ornery and cute. We've been calling this little guy Robbie." Robbie. I looked at Sarah. She looked at me, and the tears began to pour down our faces. I explained our story to the cat lady, and soon she's crying too, and we're all just a mess of tears and snot and cat hair. It was the best parking lot deal ever. There's more. I know. Now, Robbie is still Robbie Cat, because how could it be any other way? The other kitten, he had this wild, disheveled white hair coming out of his ears, so we named him Bernie, after Bernie Sanders, of course. I know. And they have totally lived into their names. Robbie is curious and smart and a little mischievous. Bernie is humble and other-centered. They are big, fluffy boys now, and they are spoiled rotten. My once tiny home is covered in cat hair. Hell, everything I own is covered in cat hair. My sofa's been shredded, but when I walk in the back door, they're there to greet me. Robbie rolls over for a belly rub on his big fluffy tummy. They sleep in my bed. Robbie at my feet and Bernie Cat right here. Sarah was right. These cats bring me so much joy. You know, I suppose it's possible that Robbie came back as a little orange cat from West Virginia. I think a hawk is more his style. And I still don't know what happens when people die. But I do know this. Sometimes heaven and earth come so close together that the lines just blur. In Celtic spirituality, they call that the thin places. The psychic, she called them signs. It's all the same thing. It's just like we learned in school, you know? The first law of thermodynamics, energy cannot be created or destroyed. And isn't love the greatest form of energy? It can't stay. It can't stay in a human body that's just gonna die. No, it just keeps going. And it comes at us all the time. Me, I've learned to pay attention to the signs. Sometimes they even arrive with fur and whiskers.
Don't y'all feel better already, just in general? Just no matter what was going on before you walked in here? Don't you? I do. And we have more and more beauty coming. Okay. Oh, here comes another one. I love them all. Okay, number 3. She's a wife, mom, friend, and occupational therapist who spends her time writing, quilting, and trying to be a better human being each day. She is a lover of synchronicity, her dogs, and all things woo-woo. Lean in for this beauty. Please welcome Sarah Kennedy.
My little caterpillar was born on a day of hope, September 11th, 2004, with the requisite pink hat and all things girly. My first live birth of 7 pregnancies, this child was a dream come true. Despite some motor challenges that made nursing difficult, my longed-for baby was perfect. Deep brown eyes, red hair, and a smile that could light up every room when things were at their best. My baby was struggling with bloating, irritable bowels, and sleeplessness that made motherhood quite a challenge. My gut told me something wasn't right. Motor skills definitely lagged behind, but one thing Cal did was speak early. Kitty was said over and over as my parents' cat would come into the room. Duck, duck was a favorite toy that was presented. By a year old, there were more than a dozen different words, until there weren't. I don't know when they disappeared, but sometime between 12 and 15 months, Callum became quiet, except for the cries of hunger and fatigue. It seemed as though a cocoon had formed, impenetrable by those of us on the outside. A diagnosis of pervasive developmental disorder was given, followed by autism, and the separation between our worlds seemed to be growing. There was even a physical separation and a physical cocoon when going through a hyperbaric oxygen treatments. In order to heal a brain infection and leaky gut, Callum and I would climb into what looked like a giant tube, which was then sealed and pumped full of pure oxygen. It was super hot in there, but we made the best of it as we shared the breath of life. There was diagnosis after diagnosis, but the ultimate one for me as a mom was failure to thrive. My beautiful child was struggling, and so was I. I felt like a failure as a parent. Failure to thrive meant failure to succeed as a mother in my mind. I, too, entered a cocoon, but mine was made of constant anxiety and depression. I needed Ambien to sleep, caffeine to wake. My marriage was failing, my child was failing developmental tests, and so too I must be failing. Yet while this may sound like the worst of times, it was also the best of times. My mom and I alternated our work schedule, so she worked the days I was off, and vice versa, so she would come over every afternoon she worked. We would sit and watch Cal play in the yard, and this happened to just be the time of the passing of the monarch butterflies. We'd always noticed Cal loved butterflies, but this wasn't unusual because there was a love of animals. Yet something was unusual about them. The butterflies seemed to love Callum. Standing in the yard, the butterflies would flock to Cal as if a tasty nectar. We would watch as the butterflies were carried around and landing on Cal's head. The butterflies weren't flitting around to be caught. They were actually landing. There was no effort. They seemed to know one another. But then as seasons do, the fall passed and the butterflies migrated away. As we continued to work through the challenges of life in a cocoon, the winter passed and spring arrived. We had all but forgotten about the butterflies until I got a call at work. My mom never called me at work. "You won't believe this," she said, "but today we saw the first butterfly of the season, and it won't leave Callum alone. We tried coming inside, and it's like the butterfly is stuck to Cal's clothes like glue. It's nap time, and the butterfly's on their shirt." And sure enough, when I returned from work 2 hours later, there was the butterfly. Interesting behavior, we thought, as we pried it off and introduced it to my parents' butterfly bush. Except it wasn't just this one beautiful yellow butterfly. As the days went on and the butterflies returned for the season, they flocked to Cal, flying, landing, seeming to play games. My dad went so far as to take old window screens and build a giant box for Cal to stand in, where the butterflies would cover them. Each evening they would let the butterflies go, but each day they would return, 30, 40, 50 butterflies at a time. While Cal had no verbal language of their own, it became evident they spoke butterfly. During this time, Cal blossomed. Syllables of words began. It will come as no surprise as one of the first words to return was buzz buzz, a way of talking to the butterflies. The cocoon began to open. Also during this time, my cocoon began to open. I created new avenues of support, friendships, and moved into a new home. My depression and anxiety were well under control, and we returned to a life of work, rest, and play. I was able to look back at the challenges we faced with gratitude and learn to be a support for other parents. Years passed, and Callum continued to love the butterflies, but didn't seem to attract them in the same way. And while I don't remember when the cocoon began to thicken, it definitely occurred as my early teen began to withdraw. In order to crack the cocoon, a new language would be needed once again. Mom, I think I'm different than the others. I think I'm gay. You're perfect, my little caterpillar. As with the struggles of early childhood, Cal spent periods retreating inwards, sometimes part of my world, sometimes not. Excelling in school, social interactions were becoming more and more difficult as they recognized they were different from their peers. I once again felt the pangs of failure as our communication seemed more and more strained. Mom, I don't fit. My body is not my own. I cannot stand the way it feels. While I don't understand, I love you, my little caterpillar. More tension became present as Cal struggled internally, and I once again entered another period within my cocoon of depression. I couldn't understand what my child was experiencing or how to help. I was lacking in the knowledge of gender nonconformity and was not the support I wish I had been. While I was accepting, my words were sometimes unhelpful and other times downright hurtful. I just couldn't figure out what I was feeling other than the loss of the child I thought I knew. Without a new vocabulary and emotional growth, one or both of us was going to be stuck in that cocoon. During this time, a period of grieving began as my mother began her own transition from this world. As she lay dying, and Cal was with her on February 28th, 2021, the first butterfly of the year came and knocked at the window. It seemed to bring it with it the words I was longing for. Cal, I miss you. I was grieving my beliefs about the child I thought I had birthed. I felt confused, lost, and alone in the journey. I watched as long hair was cropped as I turned my back and cried in the hair salon. I mourned as my child harmed their own body, feeling it acutely in my own. I watched as my child struggled with an unaccepting parent, feeling as though somehow this meant I had to be even better. But just as the pain seemed too great to bear, the language of a mighty and brave caterpillar began to open the cocoon. Mom, I'm transgender. My name is Callum, and although I don't know how this is going to go, I need you to see me for who I am. You're perfect, my little caterpillar. I'm here with you. Once again, we sought support and made new friendships. We utilized the resources of the Diversity Center and the Youth Saga program to not only support ourselves, but begin a path of supporting others. We did it together. Not to say the path was easy, but the path was clearer. As the cocoon opened, my little caterpillar is no more. A butterfly has emerged as a 19-year-old transgender man flying into his best life in Richmond. He is studying to become a teacher, a changer of lives. Failure to thrive my ass. The transformation has been the most beautiful thing I've been witness to in my life. He now bears witness to this period of his life with a tattoo of 3 butterflies on his upper arm, one for his grandfather, one for his grandmother, and one for himself, the most beautiful butterfly of all.
What a love letter, right? Oh, love it. Oh my gosh. Okay, we have one more before intermission. Yep, we have one more before intermission. So this was the very first story pitch that came in when, the minute I posted the theme, I had an, instant message. And I won't spoil it. You'll know. But you'll also know why I said there are no options. You're in the show. So she's a Roanoke-based financial advisor and longtime supporter of the Grandin Theatre. She has her own slide up here, y'all, if you come see movies. She was once a recreational triathlete, completing over 100 races back in her competitive days. She also worked for a race production company to support her triathlon habit, putting on events throughout the Mid-Atlantic, out in California, and one race in particular on a tropical island off the coast of Honduras. She enjoys less competitive adventures these days, as well as collecting interesting original art with her fabulous husband, Andy. Please put your hands together. Hold on. Miss Gretchen Weinig Beadle.
You know, getting to go on adventures and do interesting things is awesome. But sometimes these experiences are not always what they seem. In fact, I have identified 2 distinct issues when it comes to doing cool stuff. Issue number 1. Sometimes the experience is fun and interesting in the retelling, but the living of it kind of sucks. For example, when I was single, I attracted the strangest, weirdest, most disturbing people I have ever encountered. Those of you who have dated can relate. One time, I was propositioned over email, not just for a date, mind you, but an inquiry as to whether my triathlon background might ensure a male heir for this guy's family empire. And I am flattered that someone would think that my athletic abilities are that powerful. Alas, it was not to be. And when I gave him my rejection, he replied, and I quote, "I'm just a cavalier gentleman, born a century too late, who would have, but did not, get to ride for my country," wait for it, "the Confederate States of America." And while I should have said, "Dear sir, there is so much to unpack here. I fear we do not have the lifetimes to do it." Instead, what I wrote is, "Dude, this is why nobody likes you." Issue number 2. Even when what you are doing is amazing, there is always someone who's going to do it better than you ever could, which is pretty much what happened the time I got to go swim with the dolphins. Let me set the stage. So back in my earlier life, I used to do triathlons, and I helped produce races with a production company, which is how I ended up in Roatan, Honduras, putting on a triathlon. Now, this is 2005, and my brother just happens to be stationed in Honduras with the Army as a special operations Black Hawk pilot. He is a badass and absolutely capable of producing a male heir for a family empire. Because, you know, that's how reproduction works. His then girlfriend, now wife, Heather, also is going to come down and do the race. Now, Heather is spectacular. She's an attorney. She's an Ironman triathlete. She was a competitive swimmer at West Point and is beautiful in that fresh out of the shower, no makeup kind of way. A trait I have personally never experienced, but I do aspire to. Now, the way you swim with dolphins is you start out in shallow water, and they give you a little lesson in dolphin safety and anatomy. They introduce you to a dolphin. Here's the fin. Don't touch the blowhole. Don't touch the private parts. The dolphin does a couple of tricks, and then they put you in a boat and take you out to a small island with a huge, deep water enclosure just filled with dolphins. Now, everybody gets like a mask and a snorkel and some flippers to help you be a little bit more comfortable in the water. But Heather is like, I am one with the ocean. So she hops off that boat with just her fins and her swim goggles, and she starts live action role-playing The Little Mermaid. I mean, the rest of us are still figuring out what end of the snorkel to blow into. So yeah, we're all getting a few minutes with the dolphin here and there, and Heather is having a completely different experience. She is surrounded by dolphins as if she were Taylor Swift being mobbed by 14-year-old girls. A couple of dolphins would come over with an obligatory for the rest of us, but it was clear their hearts were not in it. They wanted to be back with Heather and the rest of the pod, who appeared to be making plans for another girls' trip. But seriously, when your time is up, they blow a whistle, and just like Pavlov's dogs, all of the dolphins go shooting over to the edge of the enclosure for fish snacks. The rest of us come up to the beach area, and just as Heather is taking off her fins, 2 dolphins break ranks, come back to the shoreline, and literally start kissing her on the cheek. She is eating this up, and all I have to say is, it's disgusting. And to make matters worse, I love this woman. She is incredible. But dude, this is why nobody likes you. Fast forward to the next year. The goddess smiles, and I get to go back to Roatan, Honduras, and do the same race. But Heather and my brother are no longer stationed down there. So I recruit the triathlon crew to go on the dolphin swim, and I'm thinking, who's the Heather now? We hop in our rental to head on over, and I am dispensing advice on how to swim with dolphins like I have been dating Jason Momoa. Skip the snorkel, wear your swim goggles, don't touch the blowhole. Did you know dolphins swim with one eye open? Oh my gosh, look at me. Hi, my name is Heather. Once again, we hop into the shallow water and we get the lesson on dolphin safety. Here is the dolphin, this is their fin, don't touch the blowhole, don't touch the private parts. And then it's off on the boat over to Dolphin Island. And I roll into that water like I own the place. And the universe kind of supports my commitment to this role, and I am truly, really surrounded by dolphins. At one point, a mama and her baby are swimming next to me, and she kind of dunges my arm. So I put my hand on her fin, and she glides us effortlessly through the water for so long. And I'm just thinking, I am beauty. I am grace. I have got to come up for air. She pops us up to the surface right then for a great big breath, and back down we go. I mean, a lesser person may have felt some simple joy just because the dolphins are being so playful, but I have the rich satisfaction of knowing that everyone else is absolutely digesting themselves. Step off, Ariel. This year, I'm the queen of the dolphins. So this one dolphin in particular is giving me all of her attention. She keeps kind of bumping into me and swimming over the top of me and rolling around. At one point, I kind of pop up to tread water and catch my breath, and she hip checks me so hard across the water, I'm thinking, Is this some sort of hazing ritual in order to get initiated into the dolphin pod? I kind of roll away and kind of come up for breath to get my bearings, and she swims around again and hits me so hard in the hip. I am literally holding onto her snout, waist high out of the water, shooting across the enclosure at 15 miles an hour, screaming, "Help!" I am no longer in control, and I am getting banged around underwater. I can't breathe. She keeps ramming into my hips and thighs and knocking me around as if to roll me over and swim my back. Like, I keep trying to kick and turn away and try to catch my breath and come around, and she just keeps banging into me and knocking me around and rolling me over. I am so out of sorts. I finally pop my head up to catch a breath, and now I can see all of the trainers are running along the outside of the enclosure. And they are just screaming, "Just hit him! Hit him on the head! Hit him!" So now I am literally banging on the head of this dolphin, trying to get away. And suddenly, the whistle blows, and of course, all the dolphins go shooting over for the treats. And in that moment, all I can think is, how long does it take to find a whistle? I come up on the beach and I'm all shaky and unsteady, and I immediately start apologizing. I don't know what happened. I must have upset her. Did I swim too close to her baby? Did I touch the blowhole? Like, we were having such a good time, and then everything just changed. And that trainer looked at me like, "Oh, sweetie," as they say in Soviet Russia, "You do not touch blowhole. Blowhole touch you." That's Kona, our resident alpha male, and he considers himself a ladies' man. That's right, all that time, he had been trying to have sex with me. Here, I thought I was going to be the queen of the dolphins. And instead, I ended up on a date with the cavalier gentleman. Kona, dude, this is why nobody likes you. Thank you.
Pretty sure that won't be the last of Gretchen. All right. Okay. All right. 4 more amazing stories. Are y'all ready? Yes. Okay. Here we go. All right. This is a lean in and love. Oh, they're all lean in and love, but this is a lean in and love, y'all. He's a retired staff sergeant. He spent 10 years in the United States Army as an infantryman. He was medically retired and is now on a journey of healing and learning how to navigate life with a traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress disorder. He lives and works with his family on their little homestead, where he's found a passion for chickens and a slower pace of life. He is a second-time Hoot and Holler storyteller. He told at our Voices of Veterans event, and really special and thrilled to have him back up here. Lean in, Stephen Kelly.
Hang on. You ham. It was July 22nd, 2012, and the mission was simple. Go pick up these guys and drive them back. If only it had been that simple. All I remember from that afternoon was my squad leader ripping open my driver's hatch and me innocently looking at him saying, "Hello." As he reached in for my hand to help me out, I asked him, "What happened?" He looks at me and says, "They got us, bro. You good? We gotta go." I was confused, sore, and in utter disbelief, heading to the medevac helicopter, that I was walking away from my striker that had just been hit by a 400-pound improvised explosive device, or IED. The blast had been so powerful that it had picked up an 18-ton, 22-foot-long vehicle, slammed it through a concrete wall, and sent it through a concrete wall and completely removed both front driver's side tires, sending them a football field's length away from where the vehicle had exploded. In the field hospital, I called my pregnant wife and said, "I was blown up today." After hanging up the phone, I started to cry. I was starting to realize that I had only been a few feet away from never being able to kiss her again or hold my son. As the tears flowed, my squad leader was there again. He hugged me till the tears stopped, and then he looked in my eyes and said, "Happy Alive Day, brother." Looking at him as if he had four noses, he explained, "Your Alive Day is the day that you get to throw up your middle fingers and say, 'Good try, but you missed.' It's the day I lived." I had returned from war and thought I was relatively unharmed, but I had no idea the fight that was just beginning. I was diagnosed in country with a possible TBI and a knee injury, but I was declared fit for duty and returned to my unit just 2 weeks after the accident. Over the next 7 years, things changed, and not always in a good way. My memory was becoming less sharp. I was forgetting things that I had just been told. I was easily triggered and chose anger and aggression over kindness and empathy. My Alive Day would come and go, every year becoming harder than the last. Harder to deal with the memory of that afternoon. Harder to deal with the feeling of the guilt that I was able to go home and others weren't. My wife would tell me something's not right, but I would tell her I'm fine and keep going, because that's the Army way. Every time it was brought up, I would throw my hands in the air out of frustration and walk away, refusing to believe it. I was scared and in complete denial that anything was wrong. I'm a United States Army infantryman. I'm a hard-charging, war-fighting machine. There's nothing wrong with me. That would be my mindset for years to come. It's now July 22nd, 2019, my 7th Alive Day anniversary. I was in Fort Knox, Kentucky, away yet again from the comfort of my home and my little family in Alaska, to train college kids how to be officers. I was tasked with pretending to be a member of the enemy, playing war games in the sticky southern July heat. Everything had come full circle. I was at war against an opponent, and I was mentally back in Afghanistan, except this time it was my turn to create chaos and panic. As another grueling 18-hour day was coming to an end, I was sitting in my tent, covering my arms and legs with calamine lotion, trying to obtain some kind of relief from the burning of poison ivy that covered them, and wiping the war paint off my sweaty, swollen face. My mind was focused on anything but home. I was exhausted and hungry, mentally drained, itchy, and pissed that I was missing yet another spring bear season. When my phone pinged with a picture message from my wife, I assumed it would be a picture of my kids doing something cute. But instead it was the picture of a dirty, tired, skinny, 6-month-old black lab. My response was anything but cordial. "What the hell is that?" My wife innocently replied, "It's a dog." My first thought was, well, duh. But my reply was nicer. "Where did it come from, babe?" She sends me a text message. Yeah, that is this. She sends me a text message the length of a short story explaining everything. Focused more on the burning pain in my legs and the massive bug bite over my right eye, I read half the story before exhaustion takes over and I fall asleep. But here were my takeaways. He was in the yard. My son saw him. She said, "Go home." He sat on my front porch, and now he's in my house. When I woke up, I read the next message that said, "Don't worry, we're not keeping him. We're just fostering him until he finds his people." Famous last words, right, babe? As we're preparing for the day, I show my guys the picture of the dog, and they ask, "Where is he, outside?" Nah. My wife brought him inside, cleaned him up, and fed him. She says we aren't keeping him. We're just fostering him. As the laughter erupts, my buddy Ethan turns to me and says, "Now that's some bull. Y'all ain't gonna end up keeping that there dog." Oh, so now you're not going to react. Got it. Cool. I laughed and continued getting ready. Little did I know how much that statement would hold, or how much truth his statement would hold. Sorry. I was overjoyed to finally be able to leave behind the poison ivy, snakes, and heat of Kentucky and go home. After collecting my bags, my excitement began to build even more. I was elated to finally get to see my wife and kids. I was so excited that I forgot there would be another dog. The minute I walked through the door, life would never be the same. When that dog saw me in uniform, his demeanor changed. He went from being calm and collected to happy and restless. So much so that he peed all over my boots and tried jumping into my arms. He finally let me get in the door, but still wouldn't leave me alone. He became my shadow. Everywhere I went, the dog was right there, underfoot. The dog was saying in his way that he had found his person in me. How he knew in those first moments is still a mystery to me, but we all know that dogs are more in tune and better at that woo-woo than we are. Stop that. That's not gentlemanlike. After a few weeks, my wife started to notice that the dog always wanted to be near me, either laying next to me, walking with me, or asking for pets. My wife called the shelter and said, "The dog has found his people. We're keeping him." The next thing we did was ask our then 6-year-old what he wanted to name the dog. He looked us dead in the eyes and he said, "He already has a name. It's Mr. Dog." Yes, his name is Mr. Dog. And that's where this amazing story actually starts. Good boy. Mr. Dog was very attuned to my anxiety levels, and he would gently place his head in my hands as if to say, "Hey, you okay? I'm here for you." Around this time, I was prescribed medication for my symptoms, and again, Mr. Dog showed how amazing he was. He seemed to have an internal clock that knew when I needed to take my meds. If I went past the recommended time, he would be by my side staring at me, trying to take me to the bathroom where my meds were kept. This would continue until I realized I needed to take my meds, and Mr. Dog saw it. He would then walk off, find a comfy spot, plop down, and fall asleep. This behavior continued for several years. Jumping in time again to October 2020, a day that I don't remember much, and I'd rather keep it that way. I had a very traumatic episode, and all I can remember is coming to, sitting on the floor with an EMT, luckily a brother in arms, telling me what an incredible four-legged battle buddy I had. As I looked over, there was my black lab, wedged against the garage door. Somehow he knew I didn't belong out there that night. That night, Mr. Dog and my wife literally saved my life. I was medically retired the next year with TBI, PTSD, and chronic pain from injuries sustained while in the service. Casey worked tirelessly to get Mr. Dog trained as my service dog. He now comes with me everywhere. When Mr. Dog isn't in vest, he gets to be a farm dog, lounging around in the sun and chasing my chickens, but still makes sure I take my meds and keeps me level-headed. Mr. Dog attends my son's lacrosse practices and games, giving me the ability to help the coach, and has become an unofficial mascot. He always has my back, like when I fell at the grocery store, and he somehow knew to place himself between my head and the ground, cushioning the blow. He now helps create distance between me and others when we're out in public, and watching my back like a good battle buddy does. He attends all of my appointments at the VA and keeps me company and lets me know before an anxiety attack happens. How the hell does this dog know how to guide me to a chair and help me calm down? Your guess is as good as mine. Mr. Dog helps get me out of bed in the morning because he depends on me to let him out to go potty and give him breakfast. It isn't easy living with chronic pain and to get out of bed every morning. But every day, Mr. Dog helps me achieve that win. Mr. Dog even dons silly Halloween costumes every year so that I'm less anxious taking my kids trick-or-treating. I can honestly say without Mr. Dog, I would probably be a shut-in. He has helped me slowly become part of society again, like being up here on this stage. I don't know who it was, my ancestors or the universe, that sent me this unicorn-like animal into my life and on such an impactful day, but I'm really grateful for such an incredible companion. Man's best friend is an understatement in describing what this once dirty, tired, malnourished dog who randomly showed up in my yard means to me. He has become a beacon of hope that I may someday, with his help, regain a fraction of my independence from the crippling fears that my PTSD and TBI has given me. There will never be another like Mr. Dog, a dog who every day makes me grateful that I live to see my alive day.
Wow. That probably won't be the last we see of either of them either, right? Such a brave story. So beautiful. Okay. All right, switching gears. Okay, so just a little I don't know what the word is, preamble, precursor. This is a person that I pursued, stalked. It's fine. It's fine. I was aware of this story out in the world, out in the community, and I had one storyteller spot left, and I just thought, it just has to, I'm going to just send her a note and see if she's into it. That was met with a very trepidatious yes. So then we had a phone call, and then we had drafts and discussions, and the more we talked and spoke, the more I fell in love with not only the story, but with the person who's about to share the story. Some people feel like they might not have something worthy to say, and I'm going to cry, and I beg to differ. and I'm really, really proud of our next storyteller. I'm really happy she's going to be up here, and you're going to be happy too. Over the years, she has achieved a first-degree black belt in Kempo Karate. She has run marathons and shown horses successfully in dressage. She is the owner and manager of Place to Nest Rentals and has served as a community liaison to the local Roanoke City and county governments and police departments. She has served on several boards, but is happiest to announce that she has served on the board of directors for the Franklin County Humane Society for almost 30 years. But her greatest joy is living on her beautiful farm, tending to her rescue animals with her husband, Dr. Steve Pasternak. Lean so far in for this one, y'all. Please welcome Cindy Pasternak.
Oh. Okay, this can come off. Okay, so I'm going to start out with a question. What does a runaway bride and a runaway pig have in common? Well, I grew up in a home where we raised orphaned raccoons on a bottle in the house. We rescued a little baby lamb who had to wear Pampers while sitting on my mom's lap in her recliner, and rescued a pig that had fallen out of a truck headed to market. This became my normal. I remember the time my dad scored a wild pony in trade for painting an old barn. We couldn't afford a saddle, but that didn't keep me from riding that pony all over the streets of LaGrange, Indiana, where he either threw me off, took me off against the side of a fence, or tried to behead me under a low-hanging limb. But I loved him. And as I ventured into the adult life, there was never a time I was without an animal companion. Years later, my husband and I purchased almost 200 acres of land in Franklin County and ended up with a herd of cattle, a 40-year-old pony who guarded the cattle. We took on 8 goats, a pig, and I had show horses. We had cats and dogs, and of course, 26 llamas. This farm was years ago, and I want to fast forward to today. We now have a small farm of about 7 acres in the Mount Pleasant area, and it's just minutes from downtown Roanoke, where we also have rescue animals now. It includes 3 miniature donkeys, 11 goats, 6 cats, a mean rooster that likes to flog us any chance he gets, and 2 beautiful pigs. And one of the pigs, who came from Angels of Assisi, is named Perry. And Perry was a lonely pig at first until one day I got wind of a pig that was being evicted from the city of Roanoke. My 2 great friends had alerted me of this pig in need that had been flown in from the state of Texas as a wee little pig and was now living on Brandon Avenue. Her name was Darla, and Darla needed rescued. So when my friends reached out to me for help, I said yes. And I learned that Darla was quite famous. Over the years, she lived in the city and had grown quite a fan club of admirers. But Darla had gained some weight due to a Fruit Loop addiction. So it was going to be a group effort to get this hefty pig lifted into a vehicle for transport. And it just so happened the enlisted help had come straight from their AA meeting on a Saturday morning, Alcoholics Anonymous, to help me get Darla drunk on 2 tall Ice House beers. We positioned Darla on a tarp where she slurped down the 2 beers like a lush, foam down the sides of her jaws. And as she passed out, the AA friends grunted and moaned as they lifted the drunk pig into the Jeep, where she snoozed all the way to her new home in the country. So upon arriving at our farm, Darla and Perry were introduced to each other over a fence line, and it was love at first sight. And when Perry saw Darla, his tail went straight up. And Darla was smitten with the dark and handsome fellow of which she had probably never seen the likes, and for lack of better words, a hunka chunka hog. After a couple of days of getting to know each other through the fence, I let them meet in person. They immediately took a shine to each other and moved into what is now called the Sugar Shack, an old abandoned horse stall that was Perry's bachelor pad. Darla and Perry spent many days grazing and roaming the 7 acres of land, wallowing in mud holes, and basking in the sun on the manure pile together. And it truly was a romance fit for the movies. It then occurred to us that they really shouldn't be living in this sinful way on our farm because you know how people talk. So we did what any self-respecting farmer would do. We planned a pig wedding. Okay, this was an open invitation. I put it on Facebook. There were plans for food to be catered, tents and chairs to be ordered from Aztec. We had bubble machines and face painting lined up, and with s'mores. We had chalk art and pig noses to be worn, and we hired a live musician. And a photo booth by my very good friend, Sonny Privenance. And Fruit Loop bags were made in lieu of rice bags. Darla requested a wedding registry from Tractor Supply. Where her favorite bedding of fine shavings and special pig food for less active pigs could be purchased. The rehearsals consisted of attempting to put the top hat on Perry and a wedding veil on Darla. This was no easy feat, as every time, they protested and squealed every time they saw that hat and veil come out. They just squealed and screamed bloody murder. The day of the wedding, some guests came dressed in pig outfits and wore pig noses, and it was a community of people from all walks of life, and there was such an air of lightheartedness that was really felt by everybody. And our hired musician, Tim Martin, played Green Acres. And a chef from Frankie Rowland prepared a 5-star meal to be catered to over 100 people. No bacon and no pork was served. My husband and I laughed today that we put more money into this wedding than we did our own. So my husband grew up Catholic. Is that up there? Yeah. He decided he wanted to officiate the wedding dressed as the Pope. So we were able to find appropriate attire for a Pope costume on Amazon. So when he stepped out of the dressing room, which was a stall, the crowd yelled, "A Catholic wedding!" The wedding itself was predicted chaos. With getting the honorary pigs dressed, who, when attempting to do a wedding march, ended up peeing in one corner together and running circles. With our little flower goat, Daisy May, dressed in her pink dress, planting her feet and not budging an inch. She wouldn't have anything to do with it. So at one point I looked out and I saw legs and hands and legs and hands, and there was these kids doing cartwheels down the hillside in the midst of all the goats, while donkeys were braying and Clucker, our rooster, was crowing at the top of his lungs. And then it came for time for the vows from Pope Steve. That went something like this. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to join this little piggy and this little piggy in piggy bliss. Darla, do you take this hunka-chunka hog to be your husband? To live together in the sugar shack. To love him, to clean goat doo-doo from his hooves, to comfort and keep him warm with your generous jelly belly. And to keep him in health by ferreting only the juiciest grubs for him, for as long as you both shall live. She grunted, I do. Perry, do you take this gorgeous, curvy piggy to be your wife? To live together in the sugar shack, to love her, to nuzzle her, to pick ticks off her back, and keep her in health by feeding her huge cobs of corn daily for as long as you both shall live. And as if reality had kicked in for Perry, he started running circles. He bolted, and he broke through the gate and ran off to the far ends of the property. True story. Meanwhile, Pope Steve is yelling, Perry has cold feet. Perry, come back. So the happy ending of this story is that he did return that evening. Amends were made, and I found the two lovebirds nestled together in their sugar shack. And all was forgiven. And that night, after the guests were gone and the property put back into order, my friends along with Steve and I sat around into the wee hours of the evening, reminiscing the day's unpredictable or predictable chaos as we sipped on Darla's favorite beverage, Ice House beers. So as you can tell, I love my animals and have a lot of fun with them, and Darla, in particular, is such a colorful and fun personality that I wrote a book several years ago, and it's called Roanoke Loves Me. Not me, her. Loves Darla. And in this book, I wrote about this love story where Darla and Perry got married. And in reality, it is with great pleasure I announced that last month the couple celebrated their first wedding anniversary. They still enjoy wallowing in the mud holes and basking in the sun, on the manure pile, and evening strolls through their field of dreams. And as much fun as it was putting this whole very surreal event together, the greatest memories are of joyous laughter and innocent fun from all who attended. And I will always hold that special day in my heart forever.
Cindy Pasternak, y'all.
Thank you.
First time storyteller. She killed it, right? Killed it. Oh my gosh. I'm verklempt. I stay in a state of verklempt, but that really made me verklempt. So proud, so proud. Okay, we have two more beautiful, there's, the Pope is over here too, y'all. The Pope is over here too. So. And we're waiting for a big order from Amazon to all get copies of that fabulous book, right? Okay. Oh, our next storyteller. She's a second timer. She fell in love with storytelling while watching her mother interview folks for family research. Listening to her father tell tales and share ghost stories kept her captive for hours. Relationships built with others around joy, grief, and survival. When not working as a massage therapist, you can find her covered in dog hair, spending time with her family, and advocating for marginalized communities. Love is love. And this is such a beautiful human who I now call my friend. Please welcome, lean in and love, Alicia Bell.
Good evening. Lee, is that okay? Okay. Whenever my dad tells a tale, and you're wondering whether or not it's true, the only thing he'll say is, there's a little bit of truth in everything I tell you. My dad has friends with names like Dump, Big Jim, and Cat. My favorite uncle was always my Uncle Blue. This is what people actually called them in public. I still don't know their real names. My mama was the family historian, and our summers were spent in graveyards and at family reunions. I have more cousins than I do socks. Virginia is my home, but my heart, it's in West Virginia. That's where my daddy met my mama and where he built our family cabin. My brother and I spent every summer crawling over rocks filled with moss in the Greenbrier River, swimming and counting the stars. As kids, we hated to go, but once we got there, we hated to leave even more. Daddy was always full of adventure, and he was really ornery. He still is. He taught us flat footing and folklore, what people and what creatures to avoid. Animals and babies, they see things that we lose the ability to do so as we get older. Have you guys ever seen the signs that say, watch for fallen rock when you're going on like real curvy roads? Okay. Well, my dad always told us that those signs were actually placed by the parents of a young Native American boy that went missing several years ago. And the little boy's name was Fallen Rock. So my brother and I thought for years that there was a little boy by that name missing in the woods. Now, that kept us from wandering too far off the paths because we didn't want to go missing. But imagine me at 10 years old asking my cousins, have they found Fallen Rock? His parents must be worried to death. Now, was this a life lesson from my father, or was he just making fools out of my brother and me for and giggles? Maybe it was a little bit of both. And tonight, I'd really love to share something with y'all. Can y'all keep a secret? Okay, great. You gotta go. Okay. I'm gonna tell you all how my daddy found the West Virginia unicorn, the gully whomper. One kiss on its mouth, and your wish will come true. We were raised that spirits and haunts were real, and they were always among us, so why not believe in this too? Now, there are a lot of West Virginia cryptids I'm sure you're familiar with. The Mothman of Point Pleasant, big winged cryptid with big red glowing eyes. Or the Flatwoods monster of Braxton County, standing 10 feet tall, blood red face with claw-like hands. Or the sheep squatch from Boone. It's 3 times the size of a bear with white fur, and it smells like sulfur. Oh, but wait, the gullywumper, it's real. It is. It moves very quiet through the brush and the briars. But if it's spooked, it'll holler like a bobcat. It had antlers like a deer. And this thing, it stood tall upright, like a human. And it didn't have eyelids. It would just stare, actually just look through you. It knew if you were a liar, a cheater, or something far worse. I knew I'd much rather run into a ghost or a bear when I was growing up. Now, one weekend, my Uncle James happened to come by the cabin to drink a beer and visit with my dad while he was working on the cabin. They sat on the porch, they were just kind of shooting the breeze, and my uncle began bragging about some recent hunting trips that he had been on. Bless you. My dad decided it was time to fess up. James, I got something I need to show you. Can you keep a secret? At this point in the evening, both were a little snockered, and my Uncle James just kind of gave him a grin. When he saw my dad wasn't smiling back, it kind of shook him up. Dad went into the cabin, came back out with a pretty large box. He slowly reached inside of the box. He turned to my uncle and he said, I need you to know that if I show this to you, you won't tell a soul. I was laying some flooring down and I heard something out by the Johnny house. It sounded like a scream, but I didn't see anybody. I grabbed a block of wood and I started out towards the woods, and it got really quiet. And I saw something looking right back at me. All I could hear was the heart beating in my ears. Now, by this point, my macho gun-toting uncle was backing away from my daddy. My dad slowly reached into this box, and out popped 2 small antlers, misshapen, a little tuft of fur, and 2 black lidless eyes. Now, my brother and I, we heard different tales from aunts and uncles about just how my dad caught the gollywumper, how he used a bow and arrow, how he used a trap, how he shot it right between the eyes. Daddy never bragged to us about how he killed it. We just knew that it wasn't a toy and that he considered it a treasure. Now, my brother and I, we weren't allowed to get it out of the box, touch it, show it off to friends. The gollywumper, well, it was kind of our moral compass. Forget about Santa knowing when you're good or bad. This thing was at our house. It was sleeping in our parents' room. It was on a shelf in their bedroom. And I knew it would tell our parents if we were being bad kids. And as the years passed, the gollywumper, it became part of our family. It was a guest of my parents at their yearly Christmas party of my dad's company for almost 30 years. That's my dad dressed as Santa Claus. He would dress as Santa and told people how they too could kiss the gollywumper for good luck. They all would line up to take a picture and a smooch. He even got the vice president of the company to give it a kiss. At the end of the night, it would then return to its box to rest, silent, sacred, and always watching. I would be home babysitting all these cousins who were all on their very best behavior because they all knew that the gollywumper was watching and listening to them too. Now, recently, I've learned the truth about the gollywumper. My Uncle Mike happened to be at the Dewdrop Inn in Webster Springs, West Virginia. It's a one-room beer joint that allowed you to mud bog in the parking lot. You could extinguish your cigarettes out on the floor. And there was a weekly pool game where you could place bets, and sometimes the prize could be a jar of pickled pig's feet, or you could get a mess of ramps. Cash usually was not the prize at this beer joint. But this night it was different. Through the stale, smoke-filled room, he locked eyes with something. A head, small antlers, black, lidless eyes, and a goatee. It was the prize for that night's pool game. He didn't know what it was, but he had to have it. What he didn't spend on Old Milwaukee, he spent on every chance to win. It was coming home with him that night. Now, Uncle Mike, he took the Gullywumper home, still not quite sure what he had. His wife, she was mortified. This half sideshow, half fever dream, and told him to get rid of it immediately. Now, my dad, he was happier than hell to oblige. He saw the opportunity to give this poor animal some dignity in its last years. He became its rightful owner and gave the Gullywumper its name. Turns out, this mythical creature is in fact a taxidermy deer's ass. For decades, people from the area knew of this beast and its magical powers. Decades of photos taken, kisses given, family folklore. Superstition come down to this. People sharing memories of their first time kissing it, seeing it, and how they heard how my dad killed it. How their luck had changed by kissing it. My dad, who loves to tell stories and pull your leg, turned a deer's ass into a mythological creature. I've recently learned this family history, along with a lot of other things, as my daddy's health is failing. There's a lot more to this Gullywumper than just my childhood memories. My dad's imagination and his intention of keeping everyone he loves safe is what kept him and his siblings all alive as a child, and then again as a soldier when he was in Vietnam. He taught us lessons and encouraged us to dream, to be kind to animals and take care of things in nature. The Gullywumper, he lives with me now. And now y'all know the story. He recently presented it to me in the same box with a half bottle of whiskey. I hadn't seen it in years, and it really just took my breath away. All the memories of feeling safe and free, running barefoot in the mountains and creeks, whispering about ghosts over campfires at night, and giggling when you see your parents kiss. All of this wrapped up in a box is on my shelf. I'll have this in my heart forever. I'm so grateful I got to tell my son about it. My dad permitted me to share this story with Miss Lee, that's what he calls her, and with y'all tonight. So now you know the big secrets. He also wanted me to tell y'all that there's magic in the mountains And when you go home tonight, please watch out for deer.
I mean, what are we all supposed to do? What are we all supposed to do with ourselves, y'all? Isn't this incredible? I am overcome, okay? I love it. I love everybody. I love everybody. Okay. Thank you. And our animal spirits and our ancestors and all that came before us are in this room with us. Can't y'all feel that too? Yeah. We talk a lot about woo-woo in Hoot and Holler, and we believe in it. So, for our closing story, we figured out fourth-time storyteller, but it's been a long time, and he's been traveling, and now he is back, thank goodness. He's a science educator, an ecologist, writer, photographer, and farm boy from the Piedmont of Virginia, with a passion for the outdoors, community, and fostering curiosity and critical thinking. Please welcome Adam Daniel.
I'm a little bit nervous, y'all. Ooh-wee. Wait, first, can we just give it up for Lee and the 7 storytellers so far this evening? This has been amazing. The bear was huffing and teeth clacking, biting his teeth together. Strong, musty smell. And I thought, do I clack my teeth back? And it was at this moment with sweaty hands I wondered if I'd made a mistake. Let me back up a little bit first. So I grew up in the sticks, or the boonies as my mom calls them, in the Piedmont of Virginia, old tobacco country. I was a free-range child. You know, they sent me outside to play. And I was lured back to supper by the smells of my mom's southern cuisine. You know, it was like my dog and me both knew the exact time to go back home for food. Perhaps we aren't so different. I mean, I'm a bona fide, genuine nature lover. Like, ecophilia isn't strong enough of a term. And that's just a highfalutin word for nature lover. So, like, I will happily go neck to neck against anybody. How nature are you? I mean, not like it's a competition, but I'm just saying. So since I was a kid, since I'm old enough to remember, I had tadpoles in buckets, lizards in my pockets, and one summer I had a black widow for a pet in the house. And I watched it spin webs for hours. It was like my own National Geographic channel, because cable didn't reach that far in the country. I mean, a kid with a black widow. Now, some may think, well, that just sounds like poor parenting. But they fostered a curiosity in nature instead of quelling it, right? That led me to live the majority of my life in science education and sharing that love with thousands of children. And thanks, Mom and Dad. And God willing, thousands more. And nature's taught me a few lessons from the chaos. Pluck the strings of life and there are reverberations. The animal kingdom bumps back. Lesson 1, dangerous things are not inherently dangerous if they teach you how to be cautious. Lesson 2, tiny things can kill you. Or at least put a real hurting on you. Neurotoxins ain't no joke. So later in life, after college and some jobs and things like this, I decided to live for a couple years in a tent more than a bed, by choice. I mean, it wasn't like John the Baptist living off locusts and honey. This is the 21st century. I supplemented my diet with locusts and honey. And at my core, I just want to understand the web of life better. You know, you see those food web diagrams in science class showing all the cool interconnections between organisms, but they always leave us off of that diagram. And it's kind of weird, but maybe fitting because most of us do live lives removed from nature. But in reality, we're not apart from nature. We're part of nature. And I don't think I'm the only one. I have an innate desire to want to reconnect to the wild. But the harsh reality is nature's not all Hallmark and Disney, right? It's a pretty savage, unpredictable place. Well, it sounds like Roanoke too sometimes. Perhaps we aren't so different. And within this web of life, we all have our own webs, stories woven together by our experiences and interactions. Webs within a grand tapestry of a web. And I just want to tug and share part of one thread with you guys this evening. So about 6 years ago, there's a spot I like to go, not too far from here, looking for bears. That primeval, atavistic yearning is just a little bit deeper in some of us than others. And it's often repressed by the walls of civility. And you know, some people go looking for birds or deers or turtle, and I've done all these things, but in this season, I really wanted to see bears. And I was seeing them exponentially more here than other places. First disclaimer, one does these things with proper understanding and respect, even after a fair amount of outdoor experience, because we're not always the top of the food chain, and we're a lot more protein, fat, and calories than a frog or a mushroom. So when I first started going, I said, I need protection, just in case. Better safe than sorry. But that day, I didn't have any time to go get any fancy bear spray. So I asked myself, what's bear spray? Shoot, it ain't nothing but pressurized eye pain. Country people will MacGyver anything. So what are you going to do? You're going to go down to the DG, the Dollar General, you know, poor people's IKEA. They got everything. They got it all. And I found me a little Super Soaker water gun. Not a big one, just a little one-hand one, you know, and I mix up some cayenne and warm water, and we're ready to go. And my dad said I had to bring the water gun tonight. Look, this is all you need right here. Pressurized eye pain, baby. So sometimes you just got to MacGyver it. All right. Now, bears are so in tune with their environment that, like, it's really, really hard to see one doing their natural thing because they normally hear or smell you first and leave. Like 95% of bear sightings are just their big booties running away. And I just really want to see a bear, like, just doing its natural bear thing. You know, I'm actually in the middle of trying to write a natural history book, and it's part of my research. So I get out there, and I'm in ninja mode. Like, I'm literally trying to stalk a bear. Okay? This is not easy to do. And I'm like an hour in, and I've seen a baby copperhead with the lime green tail. I've seen some pileated woodpeckers. I don't know why everything's so funny to them. I've seen, always laughing. I see some deer, some squirrels, some little orange salamanders, the red Fs. I love them, but I'm like on a mission. I'm not interested today. So just keep going. And finally, I hear some scratching around the bend, and I'm like, this is not squirrel scratching. This might actually be it. My heartbeat quickens. And there in front of me is an eastern towhee, a tiny little songbird scratching in the leaves for bugs. Lesson 3, a 1-ounce bird can make more noise with its feet than a 300-pound bear. All right, I got to get rid of this thing. So at this point, I'm like all in, okay? So I grab some dirt and leaves, I'm rubbing it on my face, I'm rubbing it on my shirt to mask my scent. I'm like country ghetto Rambo out here with my yellow Super Soaker on my hip. dig up some sassafras root, chewing on nature's best toothpick. And I'm literally like creeping and crawling for miles and miles, so far into the woods. And finally, I find the largest wild mammal of the eastern U.S., Ursus americanus, the black bear, flipping over rocks, rooting around for food and mushrooms. And the first drops of adrenaline are released. Movement becomes more calculated because instantly the game is different. Because it ain't no game, it's the wild laws of nature, and I'm like 2-3 hours from a road or a car. And my place in the hierarchy and web shifts. So I parallel him. I'm like mirroring his path. I was able to do it really easily because I'm on a trail, but he's doing it over stick and leaves, and I'm kind of like fangirling over him, like, wow, how is he doing this? This is so amazing. I'm getting to see your bear do bear stuff. How is he doing this? But the real question was probably like, how long would he be unaware of my presence? Because he doesn't know I'm here yet, because I'm in ninja mode. Now, disclaimer. Let me take a quick moment and say this is not a wise decision. Please don't try this at home. So for the next 100, 150 feet, I'm just mimicking his path. We're both walking on opposite sides of a little drainage. And I'm just soaking it all in. It's just like, wow, amazing moments for me. And I'm pausing behind trees for cover, just straight ninja mode. And finally, a misstep. Tiny stick snaps in the sea of silence. I freeze behind the tree, knowing he's scanning. I do a little mental inventory of the haves and have-nots. He has strong teeth, sharp claws, slight or not so slight weight advantage. I feel by my side, reassuring myself with my Cayenne water gun. It wasn't all that reassuring. Now, I was there to get a photo, but I don't have one of those fancy telephoto lenses, This was another reason I had to get really close. And I decide, okay, I better get my picture, let myself be known, and depart. But the real question I'm having is am I going to be able to hold my hands steady enough to take a focused photo? So I've been avoiding a clear line of sight this whole time in ninja mode, But now it's all over. So I decide to let myself be known. And we lock eyes. Another shot of adrenaline trickles from your brain to the back of your throat. Metallic taste. Does he see me as a piece of meat? Does he see me as another animal? Perhaps we aren't so different. It's like 15 seconds of eternity. And he jolts over the hillside. But my path out headed to where he had gone, so I now know he might be there now. And when I get there, now he is awaiting me. So it's like, you want to get closer to the web of life gets closer to you too. And this is a real come to God moment for me here because the whole situation's different now. So look the beast in the eye and see a part of yourself. And everything else fades. Words do no justice. To run now could be dangerous, triggering his instinct. And we find understanding in a different language. Because, that beast is still there inside of all of us. Domesticated into docility. Shamed into the shadows. How many of us are willing to face that thing that makes your knees weak? I could have easily caved. But lesson 4, there is growth in facing that which can kill you. Growth and survival. The bear is huffing and teeth clacking, biting his teeth together. Strong, musty smell. And I think, do I clack my teeth back? Does my super soaker still have pressure? Will he charge? Will he bluff charge? You know, they'll do that just to test you. You know, they'll bluff charge. They'll run at you and just stop real fast, and you got to not flinch. And I decided to fight fire with fire and turn the tables. I'm going to bluff charge the bear. Well, I mean, my version of a bluff charge. So I pull out the super soaker. And I give it 2 slow pumps. Now, I can't be certain of what he said, but I know just enough bear language to know he'd had enough. And we both decide to step back and walk away, choosing no bloodshed or burning eyes today. And as I was walking out, it hit me, I'm alive. I'm alive, yet sometimes I feel like I'm hanging on by a thread. And the web of life does a lot more than just sustain us physically, right? Nature mends and reinforces the threads of our lives. And I wonder when we're out there what it is we're really searching for in here. See, I wasn't only stalking a bear. Maybe I was looking for connection, trying to remember something just out of reach. Remembering we're part of a bigger community than just people and machines. Webs within a grand tapestry of a web. And walking home out of the woods again that day, this time it hit me, but it hit me again, literally, like I plowed into a spider web. And I jerked back from its sticky plasticity. I was spitting and pulling it out of my beard. It's so annoying. Probably more so annoying for her. But I sat for a moment and just stopped, and I watched this little arachnid. And I wondered, was I overlooking life and beautiful moments because I was so transfixed on looking for one? Lesson 5. I love watching spiders build webs. The order and design, the architectural art, the way they move and turn the bug juice of meals into the basic building blocks, into stringy silk, pound for pound, stronger than steel. How they maneuver over it without getting stuck. How a web can be destroyed and they just go to work repairing and fixing it. Well, they have to. Their life depends on it. Perhaps we aren't so different. Thank you.
Adam Daniel, y'all. Wow. So, this is Hoot and Holler. This is your town. This is this beautiful venue. This is the world that can be created through sharing stories. Isn't it wonderful? I fall in love deeper and deeper and deeper every time I do this, and getting to know these 8 beautiful storytellers behind the scenes and working together on these stories, and then seeing them step up here and shine like the diamonds that they are. It's like my heart is just out of my chest. I'm exploding with pride and hope. Just that. If we just keep doing this, y'all, if we just keep coming together in a room and letting ourselves be human and sharing our truths, I really think it's a healing balm. I do. I think we can heal the world if we all just keep doing this and listen to each other. So, I could just go on and on. I'm so proud of these 8 people. Thank you again to the Grandin. Always, we love. PBS ECHO. Oh, our Comeback Stories show is airing next Saturday at 9 p.m. I'll post about it. That was a beautiful show if you weren't here, but yes. PBS ECHO, check them out and check out previous shows. Sam Lunsford, amazing. Yes. Corey Greer back here, staff and volunteers of the Grandin. Angels of Assisi. So what my dream that we all walk away with after these events is that we realize we're not so different after all. There's always a thread in every single story that we can relate to. It might not be our story, but there's an emotion in there, or a vulnerability, or a raw truth that we can connect with, right? So keep that going. Walk out of this room and keep that open-hearted, open-mindedness going. That's my wish. Anyway, send us a note. Send us any pictures that you took. Send in a story pitch. Stand up here and understand how beautiful you are. And on that note, please welcome back our 8 incredible storytellers. Come on out here, y'all. With their well-deserved standing ovation, Adam, Alicia, Sarah, Gretchen, Katie, Cindy, Stephen and Mr. Dog, and Aaron. Look at them. Look how brave and beautiful. These are your neighbors, you guys. This is who we live with. It's so beautiful. We love you all. Keep sharing stories. Thank you all so much for working so hard. I love you. I love y'all. Community Inn is open. That's all I'm saying. We love you. Thank you. Thank you.